These 7 characters from Disventure Camp together perfectly represent the 7 deadly sins, and I will be covering each one of them in this video, starting off with the pride. Pride is defined as believing that one is essentially better than others, failing to acknowledge the accomplishments of others, and excessive admiration of personal self. We found that none other contestant fits this description better than Yule.
I don't give a flying fuck. Her supplements could cure cancer for all I care. She is not the savior of my brand. I'm the one that people love.
Basically, Yule is obsessed with himself and his accomplishments so much that he will almost always be disrespectful, reckless, and cruel towards the others. Now, you may not remember this fact about Yule, but in the second season it was mentioned that Yule forced his ex-girlfriend to do a surgery and then he broke up with her because she did it wrong, which is completely insane.
Orange team. Who forced her ex to have plastic surgery and then ended the relationship because she did it wrong?
And now, in All-Stars, Yule is using every single possible occasion to somehow insult his new girlfriend Gret and basically to try to treat her like a shit. Also, the fact that he pushed an old lady down the escalator could put him into jail in real life, at least for a few years.
Wow, Granny. You look just like this old woman I got accused of pushing down an escalator.
Now it's time to talk about the contestant who I think perfectly represents greed. It's described as the excessive desire for material possessions and wealth, and I feel like it's obvious to all of us that none other contestant fits this description better than Rhea.
Hey Rhea, you look great today.
Thanks, I know.
It's true that in a way similar to Yule, Rhea is also obsessed with herself and her own accomplishments. However, we are not talking about the exact same things here. And besides, unlike Yule, during the most of the pre-merge, Rhea was trying to win the challenges like her whole life was depending on that. She's not doing it just to make sure her team is safe from elimination, she's also doing it because she wants to get the most of the reward. Although yes, her greedy attitude started to change a little starting from like the last episodes of the pre-merge, however we cannot deny that her greed is her biggest weakness. It's the reason why she horribly treated people like Connor, Aiden, James, Rosa, Lake and the others. So yeah, I will definitely not recommend you guys to mess with greedy people like Rhea, but I would also recommend you to not cross paths with the people who are associated with our next deadly sin, and that is envy. It is described as a desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attribute belonging to someone else. I feel like it's obvious to all of us that the contestant who is the most associated with this sin is Jake.
I can't help but feel bad. Am I right to suspect something between Tom and Aiden? I know I don't have the answer right now, but in case it's true, tonight was payback. Now Aiden will feel what it's like to have the person you love taken away.
I think we all can agree that the main focus of this season so far is Jake whining starting from the first episode. And here's my personal opinion. Since Aiden and Tom are not really in love with each other, I feel like we have no rights to call these three as a love triangle. His jealousy, however, doesn't stop here. In the 6th episode, Jake and Ali had a funny little friendship. However, after Fiore's elimination, they literally started oftenly arguing for the most random reasons.
Stop hogging it!
Wait, I want to try a password.
Forget it!
Let it go!
No, you let go! Ow! What's wrong with you?
You told me to let it go.
It's broken.
See what you did? Enough!
Jake, Ali, and Ashley really remind me of Kendrick Lamar, A$AP Rocky, and Drake, who although had a collaboration a while ago, but now they ended up having a fucking problems with each other. Speaking of being problematic, Now it's time to talk about the contestant who is the most associated with Ruff. It is described as inordinate and uncontrolled feelings of hatred and anger. I feel like it is obvious to all of us that although this contestant didn't make it to All Stars, but she's the one to be most associated with Ruff. That's right, we are talking about Carol. It is pretty clear that because of the smallest details and setbacks, Carol can lose her cool, get really angry, and whenever that happens, Carol is also losing the control over her emotions. I must admit this, however, compared to the other people from this video, Carol seems to be the most genuine one out of them all. Carol was actually really good with animals, and now I am a little sad by the fact that we didn't get to know more about Carol, and I think with each day more people appear to think that Aiden and James made Carol look really dirty. And although she was one of the people who just seemed to be there, I think we all can agree that she was the one to set the tone for one of the biggest plot twists of the second season of Disventure Camp.
Surely you already noticed, right? It's not being so difficult to convince Rhea. She apparently has been insecure with her position here since she arrived. That can play in my favor.
Carol is right. I must not forget my goal. I haven't stopped failing in my work, and that's why I came here. This is my last chance to be someone, and I don't want to return to India with my family.
And speaking of James, now it's time to talk about the contestant who I think is the most associated with the lust. It is described as intense or unrestrained sexual craving, and I feel like the contestant who is the most associated with this sin is James. Now you may be wondering, why did I associate James with this sin? I mean, initially I associated Gabby with this sin because of her unhealthy love towards Ellie. However, looking back at some things in the season 2, I understand that I have to go with James here. Although after the second season of Disventure Camp, James became a really good and really genuine person, we should not forget that before the second season and like during the start of it, James' behavior was way different. In the second season of Disventure Camp, it was mentioned that before coming to the camp, James made a lot of videos with kissing challenges for the TikTok, which is the reason why, unlike everyone, he never struggled with the kissing challenge in the episode 3.
What's wrong with you? 3 seconds was more than enough!
If we are going to win, we're going to win in style, baby.
Shut up!
I've probably said this earlier, but now James is actually a really good and really genuine person. He is also a really active person, which cannot be said about the contestant who is associated with the next sin. Now, the next sin of this video is going to be Sloth, which is pretty much the same thing as the laziness. Now, even I am surprised by the pick that I did here for this sin, but the contestant who is the most associated with this sin is, believe it or not, Alec. Now people, don't get me wrong here. I know that Alec has an indirect connection to pretty much all of the eliminations in Disventure Camp All-Stars so far. However, the only thing that he did so far actually was to create the Villains Alliance, after which the other members proved to be more active than Alec himself. Now, because of his strong manipulative game at the start of the season, Alec now thinks that he doesn't even need to actually try. I mean, he was the one to win the immunity in the episode 11, and he was the acting like Fiore's shadow in episode 12. However, other than that, he seems to clearly not exactly care about the game. Now, it is also shown that Alec is actually pretty lazy at being a parent. He wasn't paying attention to his son while they were in the beach because Alec was relaxing, reading a book about Robinson Crusoe. Like, man, are you serious? So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think that Alec is a bad character. He's actually a really good, fine character, but what I'm trying to say is that he was way more active in the season 1 than now. I feel like currently Alec might be a little bit overrated maybe, however straight up the opposite can be said about the contestant who is associated with the next sin, and that is gluttony. The gluttony is described as the overindulgence and overconsumption of anything to the point of waste. Now, this one was the hardest one to pick because barely anyone from Disventure Camp is associated with this sin. However, thinking about it more carefully and having a look back at some things in the past, I decided that the contestant who is the most associated with this sin is Tom. While working as an officer after the first season of Disventure Camp, Tom was definitely all about the donuts that he could get from his job, and that was definitely his favorite part of being a policeman. And even now, in Disventure Camp All-Stars, Tom so far acted as that one big naive goofy goober who pretty much always thinks about all the best stuff that he can eat. And now I am really not going to say a lot of stuff about this one because, as I have said earlier, barely anyone from Disventure Camp can be associated with this sin, and that including Tom. And now this is pretty much it, guys. Don't forget to press the like button under this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.